Hey everyone, what's going on? If you're new to the channel, you need to go back and review some of my previous videos, and you also need to learn to apply what I am talking about in these videos to get a better understanding of what I am saying. But what I talk about is how the world that we live in is made up with mathematics, and if you understand the way that this world works and you understand ancient knowledge practices that have been kept secret from the rest of the world, you can see a lot of what is truly happening in this world, and you can see how you're truly just a slave being ruled over by people who understand this knowledge. And every day our mainstream media articles are coded with this system. Our sports leagues are told history. It is all done by this script. There's an ancient knowledge thing called Kabbalah, which has a belief that God created the world by merging the letter with the number with the word. And within this is the practice of gematria or gematria, which is the practice of coding numbers into words and phrases. And, just a prime example is the word Democrat equals 47 in gematria. And also in reverse, Republican equals 47. And the word government equals 47. And the word president equals 47. And the word White House, it equals 47. And, you see all these ciphers here, but the reason that there is a reverse and there is a frontwards way is because of another ancient knowledge thing called Hermeticism. And you can just look this up and you can get a better understanding, because a lot of people who are new to this information, if you don't even understand, things about secret societies and other things, you are absolutely not going to understand what I'm talking about. But if you look into Freemasonry and think about how George Washington was a 33rd degree Freemason. But if you look into that, their logo is a square and compass that's set at 47 degrees. And guys like Henry Ford, a well-known Freemason back in the day, he died on 4/7 of the year 47. And if you write out Ford Motor Company, it equals 211, which is the 47th prime number. And that's why we're told George Washington died on 2/11, right? And the Freemasons pride themselves on Euclid's 47th problem about foundation. And the word foundation equals 47. So you have to understand these ancient knowledge things. And the reason I brought up Hermeticism was because there's, a society, the Hermetic Order of the Golden Dawn, that is all about Hermes and Thoth, which is Hermes Trismegistus. Just research a little bit about what I am talking about, and you'll get a better understanding of where all this comes from. But in Hermeticism, there's a belief that everything is the same and everything is also the opposite, Hence why God created the world by merging the letter with the number. Notice God in reverse is 10, and notice Satan is 10 in the frontwards way. And Marilyn Manson has a song called Say 10, and he says, say the number 10, and he says, you say God, and I say 10, like the number, because the system is being used. But moral of the story. The other day, I made this video where I talked about, I had this synchronicity with Mary Poppins, and it was on March 25th, but I made this video on March 27th. And what had happened was I was at work, and this guy cashed in a lottery ticket because I work at a gas station, and he didn't sign his name on the back of it, so I was just write random things, whatever comes to my head, and for whatever reason, I still to this day don't know why I wrote Mary Poppins, but I wrote Mary Poppins on the back of this lottery ticket. And the next person who came into the store was wearing a shirt that said, supercalifragilisticexpialidocious. And I was like, huh, a Mary Poppins reference, right? Like, what are the odds of that? Mary Poppins, and then this lady comes in wearing a parody of a Mary Poppins song. And what I pointed out the other day was that the kiss my ass part, if you write out kiss my ass, that equals 135 in gematria. And if you write out Mary Poppins also equals 135. And this is this big thing I've been talking about a lot lately. You know, Golden Gate Bridge equals 135. And I've been talking a lot about this date of 8/10, August 10th. And if you notice what kiss my ass also equaled, 810. So just pointing it out. I talked about Mary Poppins. And on Friday, I finally got home. My girlfriend had to go to a doctor's appointment or whatever because she's pregnant again. And I went with her. And when I got home, I went to the mainstream media. I went to CNN. And one of the major headlines was a story about a man soaring into the air like Mary Poppins. And I thought, what are the odds that Mary Poppins, of all things, would be in the mainstream media right after I document about this synchronicity that I had with Mary Poppins? And notice the video footage right here. It shows that it was on the date of 3/25 where this story happened. This guy got sailed in the air by an umbrella thing, just like Mary Poppins. 3/25. That was the same day that I had the synchronicity with Mary Poppins even, but then they didn't put it in the mainstream media until Friday for some reason, right? So, how interesting. They put it in the mainstream media. In my Mary Poppins post, what I had talked about was I wondered if it was something connected to this old post I had about the Simpsons, and it was episode 166, and it was called Supercalifragilistic, right here. Whatever that is. Supercalifragilisticexpialidocious, right? 166 episode. There was a play on Mary Poppins, but this lady Maggie Roswell also played Maud Flanders, and that was the only episode that she starred in. So I just wondered if there was something connected to it. And it made me look up. The Simpsons have always been really important to this synchronicity that I have. So I looked up season 3, episode 10, because it's also this big number I've been following. If you go check out some of my previous videos, the number 310 has been really, really important to a lot of things that are going on. And I went and looked up season 3, episode 10 of The Simpsons, and it was a parody of the TV show called Cheers. And it was funny because just the night before, or I had watched the movie White Men Can't Jump with Woody Harrelson, who's also in the movie Cheers, or the TV show Cheers. And then just after that, there was this story in the mainstream media about the Big Bang Theory and how they broke a major TV milestone. And what they broke was a record of, they surpassed the TV show Cheers. And I'm like, so what are the odds? I document about Cheers, and I had this weird synchronicity at the bar called Cheers when I was DJing last Friday or whatever it was, 2 weeks ago. And now I'm getting a story about the Big Bang Theory and Cheers in the media just after I document about it, right? What are the odds? So I document all about the Big Bang Theory. Let me find it here. I did this big old document about this Big Bang story and how they overtook Cheers. And I had just talked about Cheers in these other videos. And what's interesting about this Simpsons episode being the 166th episode is that in gematria, if you write out the Big Bang Theory, it equals 166. And a big thing I talked about in that video was how it was connected to the death of Stephen Hawking and also Pi. And Stephen Hawking died on Pi Day, 3/14. But Sheldon's favorite number is the number 73. And they had a story about Stephen Hawking saying there was no God in the mainstream media 7 months and 3 days after he had died. And, you know, there's a bunch of other things. And if you write out 73, that also equals 166. I also pointed out how there was this connection to these other ciphers that exist. There's other ciphers called Francis Bacon gematria, and there's also English extended, which has been really, something's been showing me to look up English extended, but if you look up Francis Bacon and Frank Baconus in gematria, let me put the reverse ones in here too. Francis Bacon and reverse Frank Baconus, I pointed out that if you read out 3.14, which is a lot like pi, in Francis Bacon gematria, it equals 328. Keep in mind, Francis Bacon, the guy who supposedly wrote the King James Bible, and so on. But if you're at 3.14, like pi as words, it equals 328. And the story of the Big Bang Theory came out on 328. And I also pointed out that if you write out Stephen Hawking's real name, Stephen William Hawking, that also equals 328. And then Zenith of the Alpha left me a comment where he was telling me about the Frank Baconus and the Francis Bacon ciphers, and I realized that if you write out 73 in the reverse Frank Baconus, it equals 314, like pi. And if you write out the Big Bang Theory, it equals 328 in Frank Baconus, just like the date of this story. So I know that they are important to what is going on, right? These two ciphers. And I just started thinking, okay, so I also talked about how Chuck Norris was important. That's why he wrote this in here, just to explain it really quick. Chuck Norris is what Leonard tells Sheldon on the TV show. He goes, we get it. 73 is the Chuck Norris of numbers. And if you read out 73, it equals the same as Chuck Norris, and so on. But he pointed out that Chuck Norris equals 276 in Frank Baconus, and they had surpassed Cheers with the 276th episode, right? And then Chuck Norris equals 314, like pi, and the reverse Frank Baconus. And I was just wondering, I was like, this is definitely significant, you know? Frank Bacon, right? And I was thinking think about bacon, and this is the year of the pig, right? Now we're in the Chinese year of the pig, which, you know, makes sense with bacon. Also, that date of August 10th that I've been talking a whole lot about in connection to Tisha B'Av and whatever. This year, I've talked about how it's also the 227th anniversary of the fall of the French monarchy. And if you write out French monarchy, it equals 227. And if you write out French Revolution, it equals 227. And Napoleon was born on the 227th day of the year. And this number 227 is also important to pi. If you take 22 divided by 7, it equals 3.14. And if you write it out as words, 22 divided by 7, it equals 314. So I was like, that's important, right? And think about Francis Bacon, Frank Baconus. You know, Francis comes from Frank, right? Frank. France equals 135, just like Mary Poppins, and so on, right? Just like Golden Gate Bridge, just like Kiss My Ass. Another reason why that 227 was important was because in 2016, we had the Nice, France van attack, and that was on the 227th anniversary of the storming of the Bastille. So, interesting that August 10th this year would be the 227th anniversary of the original fall of the French monarchy, right? And all these connections to it. And France has had a lot of stuff going on with, it's connected to oil with the yellow vest stuff and so on. So anyway, I started thinking too, so I was like, I know that this has to be significant, right? The year of the pig, it's connected to France, it's connected to bacon. It makes a lot of sense that these ciphers would be used right now in the year of the pig. And I started thinking about the number 166, how that's connected. The Big Bang Theory equals 166. If you write out 73, it equals 166. Also, The 166th episode of The Simpsons was the one about Mary Poppins. And Mary Poppins, think about it, the umbrella. A while back, I was talking about the date of August 11th in Philadelphia and all kinds of stuff here. And I was talking about when Zachary K. Hubbard's house got crashed into. There was a guy named Montegraph on YouTube who made videos under the channel named The Umbrella Man. We'll just pull it up here really quick. And think about this in regards to Mary Poppins and whatnot. The Umbrella Man. This guy right here. He made a video, coded it by the numbers too, like telling Zach to watch out, and then a car crashed into his house on Christmas Eve, right? And he told him the numbers, like whatever the letters were. I should pull it up. It was like something like CHREVLPR or something like that. I think that is it. If you add that up, it equals 138, just like Zachary Hubbard and so on. But later on, he made this video. It was later on in 2017. So Zach's house was crashed into in it was Christmas Eve of 2016. And then on April 25th of 2017, this guy made another video telling him to watch out for the number 166. And it just so happened to be 166 days after my birthday. And in Zach's blog post, he talked about how he just watched my video the night before, where I talked all about the number 166. And it was all about flipping the script and my uncle's death. You know, right around that same time, my channel was starting to get like a lot more subscribers, a ton of views. And then after that happened, all of a sudden nothing, you know. And this other guy started a blog mocking my blog. And this was before we knew reverse gematria, and he referred to me as Nad, which is my name backwards. And his name was James Jumper, that equaled 166. And then we found out about reverse gematria, that equals 166 in gematria. So then this guy makes another video talking about 166 days after my birthday. And the very next night, when I was watching, I had just talked about this number because there's something important to the angel Gabriel, right? And Gabriel equals 135 in gematria. And I talked about how in the Bible, the angel Gabriel only goes to Zechariah, Daniel, and also Mary. And think about Zachary Hubbard's name. My name is Daniel. And then I wondered if there was a truth seeker named Mary that would eventually show up. And that night on the Gematria Effect, this lady named Mary Toffelmeyer called in. And she said that she was Montegraph's latest victim. And then she started talking about how they were trying to kill her pet pig. And when she was talking about this, I was sitting next to, my daughter had went to bed just a little bit before, and she gave me these two stuffed animal pet pigs, is what she called them, pet pigs, and told me to watch them. So this lady calls in talking about being Montegraph's latest victim, and they tried to kill her pet pig or something like that. And her name equals 166 in gematria. And I noted that if you write out pigs in Jewish gematria, that also equals 166. And, you know, notice how she changed her deal back to this picture of a pig? Or it wasn't like this before. Back then, her picture, let me see if I could find it here. Got so many tabs open here. Back then, her picture was just this. Does that seem a little suspicious? The number 33 on a hand here. And I don't know when it got changed, but I know I just looked at it not that long ago. And her brother was murdered by the numbers. But what are the odds she changed this to a pig now? I'm assuming that's her pet pig. And all this stuff's going on with the Mary Poppins and the umbrella. And it's connected to the number 166, which reminded me an awful lot of Montegraph, the Umbrella Man, his video about the number 166 that was connected to Me, absolutely connected to me. There's no doubt in my mind. Even that video about the dead squirrel, that was important to me because way back in the day, when I was on the paper route, there was the squirrel who used to chase me, and like every single day, it would sit up on this stump and it would hold up his claw. And as I got older, I told a bunch of kids how I was the squirrel master and a bunch of other stuff. So I know that video was supposed to be seen by me as well. What else was interesting on Montegraph's The Umbrella Man thing here? Let's type it back out. The Umbrella Man. When he made that 166 video, there was also a post that was on here that said DBSF April 17. And I wondered what that meant because, you know, my initials are DB, and I was talking a lot about San Francisco over the years, SF, and San Francisco has been really important to what we've been talking about with August 10th and August 11th, which I'm wondering if anything will happen now because it reminds me a lot of when they were flipping the script, right? But April 17, and I thought that was just because this came out in April of the year 17, but what's interesting is the next year my uncle Clancy died on April 17th, which just seems odd to me, right? April 17th. In Frank Bacon's gematria, if you write out San Francisco, California, it equals 417, right? Like April 17, which is interesting. And my Uncle Clancy then dies the next year on that day. Remember how my Uncle Barney died just after Zach's house got crashed into, and it was the weirdest, and still to this day makes no sense whatsoever. He was coming back from Minnesota, and then all of a sudden he drove like 5 miles in the wrong direction on a gravel road, and the gravel road doesn't make any sense why you would even go that way to get home. It's not a shortcut. It really doesn't make any sense. And then the next day he died at the Jesuit hospital, and I got a letter in the mail with $300 in it that was sent express shipped even, with like 20, and I feel like that person's a good person, but it's pretty odd that I would get a letter in the mail they spent like 20 some dollars extra to get it sent to me in a quick manner, and then my uncle dies on that exact same day. And it's basically just talking about how I should love God and quit doing all of this, right? So, and that person's also sent me stuff about the last letter they sent me was about the Golden Gate Bridge and the Pope Francis and whatnot. So it just makes me wonder. But my uncle's name, Barney Murphy, equaled 166, and his wife was Betty, like the Flintstones, that aired 166 episodes, and it's based off of the TV show called The Honeymooners that equals 166, right? And the Simpsons were important to him as well, right? He was a Knight of Columbus, and it was leading me to look up season 10, episode 12 of The Simpsons, and when I looked that episode up, it was the only episode with Dan Marino on it. And in that episode, the Falcons losing the Super Bowl, then the Falcons went on to lose in the Super Bowl, and my uncle died just before getting to the town where the mascot is the Falcons, and Christopher Columbus Day is 10/12. That's the day that my grandpa, his father, was born, and his name equals 166, right? Interesting, they equals 314 too, and 210 like San Francisco. Wow. I never noticed that before, but yeah, just pointing out some of these things. And the reason it was important was because just before he died, my Uncle Barney put a Miami Dolphins jersey, a Dan Marino, an old school jersey, hanging on my front porch, and I didn't know who did it for like a week or so. It was just hanging there on my front porch, and I was like, who gave me this jersey? Like, where did it come from? And then I found out it was my Uncle Barney, and I asked my mom when his birthday was, and it just so happened to be 166 days later after his birthday that I asked my mom that. What else, though, is interesting about that DBSF thing is that I have a ton of connections to San Francisco. Like Dan Barrett equals 202. just like San Francisco, 202, also 122. And remember, when Monograph made that original video, or Zach's house got crashed into, 122 days before Monograph made that video about 166, 122. But San Francisco equals the same as my name, 202. Zach was born on the 202nd day of the year, and my birthday is 8 months and 11 days exactly before his, right? A lot like this 810 and 811 dates, right? Just like Red Heifer equals 202, just like end of the world equals 202. So there's definitely something significant about that video and how it syncs up to what I've been talking about. And, you know, think about how Zach all of a sudden, out of nowhere, is getting porno hacked on his live streams now. For the last 2 nights, porno has got hacked into his live streams. And it's funny how I just documented about all the stuff with Monograph and how this is the pig year, and, you know, it's all in this video here, the one with Hulk Hogan on it. Let me try to find it here. My video that has the cover of Hulk Hogan where I talk all about August 11th and August 10th. Or I can't remember what all I talk about, but I know I talk about Monograph and how it's all synced up here. This video right here. And it's interesting that now all of a sudden Zach's getting hacked with porno out of nowhere, right? And what's interesting about it is that it began on March 30th, and when he got a strike or whatever for it. And that strike ends on 6/28, which, if you go back to 2017, that was the day that his original YouTube got deleted. And it got deleted 186 days after his car crash. And his car crash, or the day he got deleted, was also the day leaving 186 days in the year. And, you know, for synchronicity purposes or whatever, I documented how just after that, Zach did one more episode of the gematria effect on July 5th, and then he took a break until July 26th. And July 5th just so happens to be the 186th day of the year. And the reason that sticks out to me so much is that the pig year this year, the pig year began on February 5th. And if you go to August 10th, that's 186 days. So, you know, it's connected to the pig year. I have this synchronicity with pigs, synced up to Monograph. That's why Francis Bacon gematria is important. Lately, I've been documenting a whole bunch of stuff about this number too. Woody Harrelson equals 186. And it's synced up to Lori Loughlin as well. And the episode of Full House, right, that's set in San Francisco, it's the 186th episode, and it's saying, I saw the sign, right? Just feel like all of these things that I'm talking about, they are signs. And Jodie Sweetin's name equals 186, and Ace of Base equals 186. And, well, there was more. Christchurch equals 186. That shooting was really important to what I was talking about. It's also interesting, if you go from this day that they started hacking this thing with porno, it's 135 days with the end date before August 11th. Also 4 months, 13 days. Think about how that's connected to Golden Gate Bridge. His YouTube channel is now called Gematria Effect News. That equals 810 in Satanic. Just like Golden Gate Bridge. San Francisco equals 413. Right? Pope Francis I equals 413. And he's named after St. Francis of Assisi, who's also San Francisco is named after, and he's all about 310. And my original post about this Mary Poppins thing, it was about a guy from Turkey And Turkey equals 310. If you read out August 10th as words, it equals 310. It's World Lion Day. That's why Haile Selassie was important to the Ethiopian air crash, right, on 310. Haile Selassie was buried, 310 days before 9/11. 310 is just, it's absolutely super important. Also, if you go from March 30th to Zach's birthday, it was 113 days, and monograph equals 113, and he also equals 527, which is the day that the Golden Gate Bridge was opened. And he also said it was from synergy, that's why Zach's house got crashed into. Synergy equals 113. So this thing, all this hacking all of a sudden comes again 113 days before Zach's birthday. Originally, they hacked him big time on the Ides of March in 2017. And the Ides of March is really important too. Remember the FIU bridge collapse in 2018? It was on the Ides of March, which is also the 44th mayor of San Francisco's birthday, his 44th birthday. The word earthquake equals 44. He became the mayor 4 months and 4 days before the anniversary of the Golden Gate Bridge opening. London Breed at the time, the new mayor of San Francisco, she was 44 years old. Married to Hulk Hogan's birthday was also that same day, and he got his revenge against Earthquake in Philadelphia. And that was important too, because if you go back and watch, I was talking about bridge collapses like crazy in 2018, and then we got the FIU bridge collapse and on the Ides of March, and I talked about how I had this dream about my dad dying, and Enter the Stars had this dream about his dad dying. He made a video about, and he said that he kind of predicted the bridge collapse, the FIU bridge collapse, and I had this weird synchronicity with that video and whatnot. And Enter the Stars' house supposedly got a car crash right next to it on the date of 1/13. In Dabu 7, there was a car crash by his house too. And I'm pretty sure there was something to do with 113 with him too. But, all these people, it's just interesting stuff. Although, Enter the Stars and Dabu 7 are, buddies with monographs. So, it's weird how it syncs up. So, and they were before Zach's too. Both of them happened before the one that happened at Zach's house. So, also what's interesting, and then I'm just going to finish it here. There's just so much I can talk about, but I hear my son making noise right now. So, but the word porn in Francis Bacon equals 89, and the word porn in reverse Frank Baconis equals 89, just like Zach's full name equals 89. And 89 is the number he usually mentions when he talks about synchronicity with his family and whatnot. His mom, can't remember it all. His mom's born on the date of 8/9 or September 8th, right? Which is also the day the Virgin Mary was supposedly born, I believe it is, which was synced up to the Gabriel stuff, right? And, what was it, the coldest day of the year? He was born on the coldest day of the year or something like that. So, and it was negative 89 degrees Celsius. So, just interesting that the word porn would sync up that way. Yeah, there's just so much more I could talk about, but I'm going to skip over some of this. You can come to my blog and read about some of this, but I wanted to talk about the live stream that happened tonight, because just before making these videos, I just randomly saw that he was live streaming, and I just went to it and was listening to it a little bit while I was trying to gather my thoughts. And it's funny because I didn't think that they would do it again, but they did. They they hacked his thing again, and this kept when the porno was going. They had the truth police. This channel is being shut down due to too much truth. And what really sticks out is that the porno that they put on here is exactly 58 minutes long. And when the porno came on, hopefully you can see that it was 58 minutes into the live stream, right? And we know that Freemasonry equals 58. My name also equals 58, but I'm not a Freemason, but just interesting, right? 58 minutes into the live stream, and then they put a 58-minute porno in here. The word hacked in Francis Bacon equals 58, too. So no doubt Francis Bacon is being used, and it is important, but I want to point out what it says here. The Truth Police, this channel is being shut down due to too much truth. If you write that out in gematria, the whole phrase, it equals 810, right? And if you just write out this channel is being shut down due to too much truth, it equals 612. And this number has been all around them school shootings and whatnot, but it's also in Revelation 6:12, it talks about the great earthquake and whatnot that I have talked about with this stuff with San Francisco, right? So 612 and 810. The Truth Police equals 180, just like Golden Gate. It also equals 276 in reverse Frank Baconus. And, you know, this was the big number with the Big Bang Theory that I was talking about. They filmed the 276 episodes. Also, Chuck Norris equals 276. So, if you write out Zachary K. Hubbard and Francis Bacon, it equals 227. That number connected to pi, right? So, super duper important. Absolutely doing these porno things by the numbers as well. And the moral of the story is that it's really synced up to all these things I'm following in a roundabout way. And, you know, what are the odds? I document about Mary Poppins, and then we get a story about Mary Poppins in the mainstream media, and it's all about the umbrella, right? And then you got the umbrella man who talked about the 166, and it's all coded to the year of the pig, and we're in the year of the pig. Remember All for Truth, too, the logo was the umbrella, right? And then the umbrella man made the threat to Zach, and then his house got crashed into on Christmas Eve. If you go back to my video in November, too, this one right here, I believe it's this video. Let me click on it really quick. I talked about this in this video, too. Yeah, it was on this video. And what's interesting is it really makes me wonder, because my computer, the hard drive, just completely crashed on Halloween this year. And like, it really makes no, I've never had a computer where I couldn't even, like, the hard drive absolutely is wiped out. Like, thankfully I had a little bit backed up in my email and stuff, but I lost everything, like all my MP3s. I had an old hard drive that I got, like, I don't even know, a bunch of old ones off of that saved a bunch of time, but, and the reason why is because I do DJing and whatnot, so it was a huge pain in the ass, but my hard drive got completely erased, and then that same thing happened to Derek, right? His hard drive got wiped out, and that's where I was talking about how all of this stuff was seemingly important again, and then now all of a sudden I'm noticing this umbrella theme, and then Zach all of a sudden is starting to get hacked again. So I don't know. It's the year 19, the year of the pig. I still say to watch for that date of 9/19 of 19. It seems important. I'm almost positive that's why we got this story of that whatever his name is. Let me find it. The rapper who just died. Nipsey Hussle, right? I don't know who this guy is at all, but everything about him was marathon. He got shot out of his outside of his marathon store, and marathon equals 310. But what is it? His album, the marathon continues. So they want you to know about the marathon, right? And if you go back and watch, or just go to my blog and type in marathon, and you'll find the first famous exorcism is 13 miles away from where I live. And that town, the girl who was supposedly possessed, she came from Marathon, Wisconsin. And the town that she got possessed in was originally called Marathon, Iowa, right? And they changed the name to Erling because there was another town named Marthon. And think about marathon being 26 miles and the word God equals 26. The girl who was possessed, her name was Emma Schmidt, that equals 310. Just like the word marathon, right? And it talked about all of this stuff. The first ever marathon in the United States was on 9/19 in Stamford, Connecticut. And, just after I talked about The Exorcist, William Peter Blatty died. And the Boston Marathon, the finish line was at 666 Boylston Street, supposedly. And that we had that Chelsea bombing that year too, before William Peter Blatty died. And that was all synced up as well. And because Chelsea, the soccer team, plays at Stamford Bridge. And the WWE headquarters are also in Stamford, which is interesting with WrestleMania 35 coming up. And it's in New Jersey. And this Chelsea bomber, he was found on 9/19 in Elizabeth, New Jersey. And I just talked about how the date of 9/19 is important to that Baron Munchausen video that I got my first ever copyright strike on. And that came out on 3/10. And it was all about Queen Elizabeth, right? And then they found this person in Elizabeth, New Jersey. And when I was documenting about the Big Bang Theory a long time ago, I talked about Jim Parsons, who plays Sheldon Cooper, and he's in the movie called The Garden State. And when he proposed to Amy on the show, he went to Princeton, which is in New Jersey. And New Jersey had the Bridgegate scandal on 9/9 that's connected to Queen Elizabeth and Chris Christie and whatnot. It was called Bridgegate. So, the Garden State is New Jersey. That's why it's important. WrestleMania coming up, it's in New Jersey. So, we'll leave the video there, just trying to piece these puzzles together like usual. But, strange synchronicity. So, whatever. It's like probably the 1,000th time I've talked about something, and then it shows up in the mainstream media, all synced up to, these things that are seemingly unrelated, and they're connected to my own life, but somehow they're connected to the mainstream media. So just going to keep documenting until I can figure out the whole purpose of it and figure out, more of what it means and how we can hopefully use this to make this world a better place and stop these people from ruling over us, by using this system. So, have a good one. Peace.